All right, welcome to the Low Sodium Gaming Podcast. We're doing something a little bit different. Today I have Rob.
Hey, what's up?
Brian.
What's up?
And Mitch.
Hey, how's it going?
You guys doing all right?
Yes.
Doing pretty good.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
You know, and Chris, I saw the Doctor Strange movie, by the way.
Oh.
Did you guys
please
see
no
it?
Spoilers. Haven't watched that yet. Not yet. Please no spoilers.
No, not yet.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, that ends the discussion then.
Just a yay or nay. Did you like it or no?
Dumbledore is Luke's father.
I like the villain of the story. I'm not necessarily enamored with the movie itself. It could have had a lot of potential. I think the script could have been better. I'm not sure. It's exactly what I thought. It didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me that much. That's the thing. It didn't surprise me that much. It's exactly what I thought. And you and me were talking about the formula, the MCU formula. I think overall it is the same MCU formula, and people appreciate it. Some people, I think most of it's gotten pretty good reception. But I do realize that, like you were telling me, that I am getting MCU fatigued. That's exactly what's going on.
That's really what I think it is with a lot of people. Like, oh, this one isn't living up to the hype. It's like, well, we're 20 some odd movies in. They released 5 in the last. Is it 5 or 6? Well, I know it's like 11 properties total in the last year and a half. Have been
27
released.
Movies or whatever it's up to now.
It just makes sense that people are tired of it, and like with them doing different stuff with like WandaVision, and even like Eternals, like they've gone different routes in filming for those. Some people didn't like it. I get it, but they're trying to do something different, which I appreciate. So I get it. To each their own. I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you as to why that was a good movie or anything like that. But yeah.
It wasn't a bad movie, Chris. It was just like...
I know. I'm not going to sit here and make the argument that it's the best piece of cinema that's ever been released ever, because that'd be a lie.
All right.
But all right, so today our topic's supposed to be about the AAA industry and if it's sustainable. Will it go bust in the near future, or will they still make all the money?
All right, go for it.
So, Brian, you're the one that came up with this topic, man. So I kind of want to dig in your head first. What do you think?
I think it's utterly unsustainable. I think it's like they're trying to make all the money, and especially the stuff with the NFTs. Like, I cannot wait until that completely blows up and whoever invests in it in their faces, and they go back to making almost all of the money instead of trying to make all the money. Oh, well, they'll probably still try to make all the money, but it's not sustainable. I think asking people to spend like $20 to get Snoop Dogg in your World War II first-person shooter is unsustainable.
Snoop joined FaZe Clan too, right?
And I think he's promoting NFTs as well. So
yeah, he probably is.
Yeah.
Rob,
I think
you sounded
NFT
like you had
yeah, well, go ahead.
It is. Like, I 100% agree with you on the NFT front. Like, I think it's a grift, and
whoever promotes it is grifting. And you can
grifting. Yeah.
The only positive is that it shows who the grifters are. They are showing you that they're that they are.
We're here to steal all your money. So, Rob, it sounded like you had a strong opinion. Go ahead and lay it on us.
So, I mean, Brian is right on the NFT front, but if we're talking about the AAA industry in general, just the NFT issues, it's just an issue, right? It's the AAA industry is composed of many other aspects, and I was also talking to a buddy of mine 2 days ago that we were going to talk about this, and he said, like, if you're looking at the AAA industry, then you have to look at the overall industry together. Like he's talking about cinema industry, where like you have companies that invest hundreds of millions of dollars in a movie, hoping that it's going to be successful. So that's the way that he's looking at it. And I asked him, do you think that the industry is sustainable, that the gaming industry is sustainable? And he said, as long as we have people like Todd Sweeney, who is the overall leader of Epic, and he has this belief that he has a lot of money, first of all, and he has this belief that as long as you pay people and that money, the wage that you give them, and they're still coming to work, that's sustainable enough. He was trying to say to me that it's not something, it's an issue, but it's not something that will ever go away, because we're seeing it in cinema. Started with cinema, now it's going on to AAA. I don't think it's ever gonna like come crashing down as long as people continue buying products. That they'll shift gears, absolutely. Brian was right. Like the NFT situation sucked, but I think Chris, in one of our previous podcasts, you said that they're shifting now, and Ubisoft is getting a lot of flack from it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So the consumer is always gonna have the final say on it. So they shifted gears, and now they're doing other things. I think the AAA industry is going to continue on, and we're going to, like, what movies were or are is what video games are going to be.
Okay.
They're already making dollar for dollar. Video games make more than movies. I mean, like, granted, it's a $50, $60 entry point for a video game as opposed to like $10 for a movie, but. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto made $1 billion like 1 year. I forget which year. So,
So probably
it's already making more money, like dollar for dollar.
And Brian, you, bam! That's a fantastic example. Yeah, that's you're saying it yourself. The video game industry, the AAA industry, is not going anywhere. People realizing how much money it's making. It's like, I for one would be like, yeah, it's gonna stay. The only caveat to that, it's. You're right that video games are more expensive, but movies actually take less time to make. It's like, if you notice, like, Dune was a fantastic movie, beautifully rendered, but it only took a year of like filming and then another year to getting it straight, like all the special effects and stuff. It's like video games.
Yeah, you don't have to work out how doors work in a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Doors just work. In a video game, you have to figure out how you're going to get a door to function.
Exactly. It takes a long time. Grand Theft Auto took like 6 or 7 years, is my understanding. And then we talked about this.
You're building a fully featured interactive world.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah, so it's gonna be more expensive. Now my thing is, so like the AAA industry is gonna survive. My thing is, how are companies gonna compensate for as it gets more expensive to make a video game?
I mean,
it's
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
$300 million for GTA 5. Roughly, development cost. They've sold 160 million copies. Mm-hmm. So, you're talking close to $10 billion on just game sales alone.
Plus the microtransactions that are still going, and they're still releasing it for new systems because Grand Theft Auto Online is still making the money.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what imagine what they're making on just the microtransaction side of things on GTA 5. It's got to be astronomical.
Right, but
I know.
But what about companies? What about companies that are not like 2K Games or freaking Microsoft?
I think that's the point, right? That's why we say like AAA, because if you look at it right now, Call of Duty has like several thousand, like the Call of Duty franchise as a whole has several thousand people working on it, and multiple studios working on them, right? And so they figured like, hey, we made X amount of dollars from this, we can afford to put this into it, right? And it's put it to where it's one of the largest franchises with the number of people working on it. So like, is that something that can be sustainable? Like now, like you said, if people are paid and they show up to work, but then that branches off into culture at the studios? Do people want to continue?
Culture, I would say.
Toxic culture at these studios that is starting. It's starting to be exposed, but we don't know if it's changing. Right, like people are being let go. There's being, people are leaving. EA's talk about selling. Ubisoft right now is trying to be acquired. Well, they're interested in being acquired, even though they were celebrating that they weren't being purchased or
a couple of years ago
taken out.
A couple of
like that was
not anymore.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. And so like now they're looking to sell because they've gotten into issues. And so that question is like, as AAA. In the AAA gaming industry as of today, is it going to be the same? I don't think it's going to go bust like it did in the 80s. I don't think there's going to be like this giant disinterest in playing, Pac-Man like like it was in the 80s. But like, I do think there's going to be some kind of fundamental shift because there has to be. Like the level that we're at, like Ubisoft has 10 different studios and thousands of people working on Assassin's Creed, and that return on investment is starting to be less and less and less because people are getting disinterested in it. So there has to be a change in there.
I think it's hard to say that there's a full, drop off in their net profits, though. I mean, a couple of years ago, there was a Sony executive, Sean Layden. He mentioned, he brought up like games only costing $60, per copy, and how it needs to increase because it's not sustainable that way. But I mean, if you take Anthem, I think we all consider that being a flop, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, it didn't sell what they thought it was going to based on what they spent. And it's hard to figure out exactly what their total development cost was, but they still sold 5 million copies of that game. So, I mean, even if it was a $250, $300 million development budget.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
They still, even if they did that, they broke even.
Yeah, like, so 5
so these companies.
5 million multiplied by 6, that's a 300 million. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, so those companies, even on a loss in their eyes, because they're, I'm assuming they're, wanting to sell more, or they hope they would sell more. I mean, they're probably breaking even with that. And to me, I mean, it comes down to the project manager or team leads on that development cycle.
Ding, 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 ding,
you need to understand what you have, the team you have, the time frame. And a lot of it with these bigger AAA companies, you have investors and stockholders and whatever that you have to answer to at the end of the day. But I mean, that falls back on the shoulders of those project managers to say, hey, it can only be done in this time frame for this amount of money, and this is what we should expect on our return. And if you have somebody that doesn't give you that return on their investment, I mean, and in all honesty, you should probably find somebody else to lead up that project.
I think, especially recently with, and with the way games have come out, not meeting expectations. And Rob, you and I touched on this, I think, two episodes ago, is the project management, and them not having the guidance on where to go when, during development.
That was last episode. Well,
was that last? No,
that's the last episode, but we did two. So you're probably going to publish the second one today,
today.
Yeah. So again, you're absolutely right. It's all about the management. I get, but the question is, are AAA video games sustainable? Is it? I think all of us. Unlike Brian, I think Brian is under the it's not going to sustain. But I think for me,
I think portions of it are unsustainable. I think that the vast
there we go.
mechanism of AAA gaming is going to continue. It might continue in a slightly different form, where they would have to adjust certain things.
Right.
But I think it's too big to. I hate to use too big to fail, but at the moment they're making too much money.
Do you see it more going towards the live service, just more in general?
Maybe. I honestly think that the gold rush is going to be augmented in virtual reality. I don't think making something a live service is you're asking somebody to invest in it, and I think that each person doesn't have the bandwidth to invest in maybe more than one or two of these. So maybe the ones that are best at rolling those out. Or
I mean, we've seen that with Babylon's Fall, right? Babylon's Fall was supposed to be the live service game. That was for Square Enix, right? That was supposed to be for Square Enix.
Yeah, I only heard about it because of somebody made a video on it. I did not hear anything about it organically.
I
think go ahead.
I don't think so. Like I there's always gonna be money for like live service, but I think overall like video games are just gonna find their own way, whichever meets the audience. I see video games as like a plethora of different things that you can choose from. Like people that like single player games, trust me, people are gonna still do. Video game companies are gonna still do single player games. Video game companies are gonna still do multiplayer games for those that are in the audience, and I'm sure they'll find a medium for those that are going virtual. So to say like the video game industry is going in one direction, I think I don't completely agree.
And you have
with
these
that.
extremely talented like an individual now can create and make a living off of a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a Stardew Valley, a Vampire Survivors, that type of thing.
What is it? Telltale? Not Telltale. It was this 2D game that had a morality system in it, where like the kid falls into a well, falls in a hole, lands in a place dominated by monsters, but those monsters are actually really nice.
Undertale?
Yeah, I think that was made by one person too.
Yeah, so we have the tools now where it's basically like the tools are there and if you have a good idea, I think that like especially in the indie space, that can sell millions of copies. And so as long as that creativity's there, I'm hopeful for the video game industry as a whole.
Yeah, so I think this kind of moves into acquisitions as well, right? And when you start talking about like EA's looking to be bought, the recent Bethesda purchase, Square Enix sold off a ton of their properties to the Embracer Group. Do y'all see that hurting AAA gaming in any way? It's looking like it's starting to become homogenized. So what do y'all think?
It might be like the at the end of the bubble type of thing. Like it continues, but differently. Perhaps, or
I don't think it really hurts. I mean, you got Square Enix that's gonna, they've emptied out a lot of their portfolio and they can kind of refocus on what they're good at, right?
Yeah.
It seems like they're
the Square Enix thing.
Buying NFTs.
I think that Square Enix is preparing to be bought by Sony. That's my understanding of it. So like they let go a lot of those companies, so the properties that are left are less expensive and they'll be bought by Sony. But that was my understanding of their decision, and it wouldn't be a bad decision for Sony because, I mean, Sony and Final Fantasy are
kind of hand in hand for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Again, you mentioned, Chris, that when it comes to these companies, it's unsustainable sometimes because they're always trying to gain money. They're trying to gain money. They're trying to survive. They're trying to pay all these employees already that they already have, all these bunch of different companies all around different regions, right? So like if they're bought by someone like, for example, Microsoft, who is not only focused on video games but other products, like other products too, it does cut that issue about like we need to make a video game or unless like we're gonna be shut down, our whole like franchise or our whole brand is gonna be like obliterated. So like now they're more relaxed because now they're bought by Microsoft, new management. It's not like you need to get this right away or else. Crunch time is minimized because you're no longer like this video game depends on the success of the company. It doesn't. Microsoft can survive a couple more months or a couple more years if the game doesn't come out in time.
Yeah, they can prop it up. And I mean, like they've gone a different business route too with Game Pass. So like they're not extremely hurting, but they do need reasons for people to come in and continue to spend money on their platform.
Right.
Yeah. I think that Bethesda is sort of like it gives you Oblivion, Elder Scrolls. That's the blockbuster that gets you to subscribe to Disney Plus type of thing. But yeah, like that's what Microsoft is doing that with Game Pass. So that's their idea. I do hope it decreases crunch.
So Microsoft just wants to get you in that ecosystem.
Yeah,
with Game Pass, that's a really good way to do that.
So, that's one thing that I want to point out. Like, I had in my last podcast of Podesta being like, I thought that in my argument was that it looks bad on Microsoft because Microsoft has already shown that they've delayed a couple games and they need a solid hit to, like, in 2022. They have come out with nothing. Meanwhile, Sony, came out with this Horizon Forbidden West game. And, they ultimately at least have two or three games that come out exclusively for Sony. So, like, in my argument last time, I was really upset, but talking to someone else, he mentioned that, you should be happy because, like, if you notice, Bethesda, and you talked about this too, Chris, you said Bethesda throws out crappy games at the very beginning. It's like with a bunch of glitches. And like you feel like it's incomplete for the first time. Like he said that he feels comfortable with Microsoft making that decision because it's a lot. Like nobody had supervision on Bethesda before, and they just threw a game that was completely incomplete, like Fallout 76, right? This time around, probably Microsoft looked at the product and they're like, "No, motherfuckers, you're gonna get this right." And we're gonna delay it. So I think
we can't afford to have that happen again.
So I think that actually, like, it's Microsoft is actually like made a good call, and it's gonna pay off in the long run. I think they are under better management and like expectations of how like the standard of a video game are higher.
And in the meantime, you talk about Game Pass, they're up to 25 million Game Pass subscribers now.
Mm-hmm.
So, they can't
the lowest
afford
amount that you can get in on Game Pass right now.
$10?
Is it
like
$10?
Yeah, $10.
Yeah. Wow.
$10 a month. Yeah.
And they have those promotional like $1, 3-month entry, promotions all the time. It seems like too.
Yeah. So, Microsoft does that, and one thing that I do like is it's not like they grab you for like 12 months. Like it's on a monthly basis, and if you want to cut it, you can cut it anytime. And sometimes, and check this out, this is something really cool. So I got Game Pass, and I played a video game for less than 3 hours, and I'm like, I regret it. I deleted the game, and I said, I'm going to cancel Game Pass for next month. They actually gave me my money back. They didn't
shit.
Yeah, they gave me my money back. That's full $10 back. I'm like, holy crap! Wow, thank you. That's
so. It sounds like, and pulling back in just a little bit, it sounds like some of the consolidation is good.
Yeah.
Right. Because even like when you talk about Epic and Epic buying up these different smaller studios, they bought up Psyonix for Rocket League. They just bought up the studio for Fallout guys. It gives those studios some breathing room. I think that was mentioned earlier. They give these studios some breathing room where they don't have to worry about the day-to-day, like how are we going to make sure that our employees get paid? How are we going to make sure like we can push this out on time? They don't have that crunch on them to get this out, as fast as possible. So some of it seems like a good thing. I do think, like the Embracer group is kind of, I don't want to say scary, but they seem like a bad sign sometimes. Like it's just they go around, they buy up all these different properties, but have they released anything yet? Like I don't know if like I know they bought up several studios.
Embracer Group is the one that bought up Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, and stuff, right?
Yeah, and they were buying things up prior to this. I've been hearing their name for about a year. But
I think it'll take some time before something gets released, and then you start to associate something with the name. And I mean, like, it's just a name. Like, Konami was a big name in the 80s, and now they'd rather make pachinko machines than video games. So it's like, the name can change. The reputation can change. It's just a name, and the memories people have of that. And they'll make their own legacy, I guess, once they have some games to release.
Did Embracer release one of the Metro games a couple of years ago?
So Embracer Games, it's not that. So it owns THQ Nordic, it owns Gearbox Entertainment and Dark
They
Horse.
just bought them.
Yeah, so like they own a couple of IPs. So like it seems like they're I think they have come out with video games before.
But nothing big. I think they're trying to get bigger in the space.
Yes,
that's why they're buying up as many of these companies as possible.
Yep.
They're trying to get bigger in the space. But like some of the consolidation, again, as long as these companies can maintain,
as long as they can compete, I think. As long as there's competition. When there's a monopoly, that's when the innovation stops.
So like the traditional competitors, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, there are larger names stepping into this space, but I feel like we need more than just those three. You get what I'm saying? Like you still need those.
We do have indie developers are still developing indie games.
But I'm talking about like these AAA studios, right?
You're talking about Sony,
Nintendo, there's about 10 or 12 of them still right now. So as long as it doesn't get down to EA
with EA looking to get purchased, that's kind of like, okay, we're losing another big player in the field, Activision Blizzard.
Is EA really that big, man? Because EA sucks every time, man.
I mean, you say that, but
people say, and they make millions of people buy FIFA every year.
FIFA, 2K,
and it's turned into a pachinko
all
machine.
your sports games. Apex Legends is huge. Like EA hasn't put out anything solid that I like, other than Jedi Fallen Order in the last few years, but they're still making money hand over fist.
Yeah. I mean, in any case, I don't find it a bad thing. If consolidating is good. And I think it also, I kind of want to see like if there's any exclusives coming out from Sony and Xbox. I know like a lot of people get upset that some video games aren't spread around. They don't spread around the love to the Sony or Xbox and stuff. But I think there's a certain point where like it's kind of nice because you see that there is, especially in exclusive games, you see there's a lot more detail in the games because they're just doing it for one platform. And I appreciate that. I mean, I definitely like all the Sony games that come out that are exclusives to the system. And like Nintendo, when it comes out with good games exclusives to the system, they also do it well. So yeah.
So I don't think consolidation is bad because what I have noticed is that people like those higher ups that they usually stay on for like a year or two, help integrate that studio into the larger beast, and then they kind of break off and go do their own thing. You've seen that happen, but there's been a few that as soon as they start to do their own thing, they get bought back up into a larger organization. So it's I don't think it's anything that was going to cause like games to all become live service or anything like that. And
if developers are unhappy, a lot of times they'll go out and form their own studio, and then the process keeps repollinating itself and
it's like an endless cycle.
Well, anyway,
all right. So I think we've come to a good closing point. We have some time left. If you guys want to talk about what you've been playing or anything like that, now's the time.
Halo Infinite, actually.
I actually thought about buying Game Pass just so I could shut you up and play the game. I was just like, let me go ahead and play this.
Go melee him in multiplayer.
Yeah. It's only $10 for Game Pass, and like honestly, like I played the multiplayer, but for me, Halo has always been about the campaign, and I am really enjoying Halo Infinite's campaign. It is a lot of action. I am addicted to it. So usually when it comes to first person shooters, some Call of Duty games, I get bored at it. I'll get bored at it. I'll put it down, rest my eyes, whatever, get back to it the next day. I have since 6 o'clock in the morning I woke up and I've been playing Halo Infinite for the last 4.5 hours. It wasn't until you sent me a text message that you're ready. I'm like, all right, fine. I need to drop this. But Ian, that's how good it is. I mean, quality-wise, the story is. So some people were complaining about the story. I thought the story was really good actually, and you were saying. I remember that we were talking about Halo Infinite. You were saying that there's nothing more to tell for Master Chief. There has to be something big that happens to Master Chief in order to make a good story, and I think they did it. As you progress in the story, you see not a broken Master Chief, but a Master Chief that is very disappointed in himself, and you don't necessarily hear him complain about it, but there's some stuff that he does say that you're like, wow, he's really feeling like shit right now. And
so they made him more vulnerable.
They made him more vulnerable. Well, they made him vulnerable, but it's more than that.
Emotionally vulnerable. You can see.
It's he's matured from the first Halo to this one. It's like he is more afraid to fail than in the previous ones. He was very confident. In this one, he's a lot more. He kind of reminds me of Kratos in a way.
He lost his girl, man. That's what I can get from it, is that he lost his girl. Heartbreak could do that to anybody.
Oh, so I'm gonna tell you one thing, man. Cortana in the games, and this one, she is just fucking evil. She completely turned, right?
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play it. I promise you. I'm gonna see if it'll work on the handheld because I fly out on Monday.
Yeah.
If I can get it to work on my handheld, I'll play through it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's epic. I know. I'll keep ranting about it, but it is a good game, and I was very impressed at it. And I still have to beat it, but I'm close. All right, next.
Grim, man, I've been thinking about buying Star Citizen.
So I've noticed that Devlin picked it up and has been playing it a lot.
Levan bought it for him.
I think you should just pull the trigger.
I probably will when I get paid next Friday.
So, that game's come a long way. I think I got into it, 4 or 5 years ago. It's come a really long way, but it's still a really far way off from being even considering it like an actual game. It's more just like a big tech demo still, but it's probably the funnest time that I've had with a game or tech demo in a long time. Just the ambitious, goals that they have for that. And will it ever be done? Who knows?
I think that game epitomizes the term scope creep. They just need to focus on something, release it, and then go for when stretch goals go too far.
Physics now.
Yeah.
But if you have fun with it, I can't grudge anyone having fun with the game. That's what they're for.
Yeah, it's a good time, but like I said, I've been playing it for about 4 or 5 years now, and it's just
is the story level. So one thing that I really got.
There's no story.
All right,
there is a campaign that they're working on, but I don't have that. I've only played in the public test servers.
Because I remember that Mark Hamill was supposed to come out in that campaign, and someone else, someone famous too, was supposed to come out. And listen,
So can you get into the story? Can you get into the campaign now? You can buy it, but it's not out yet, right?
Right. They're actually. I know that they've decided that for 2022, their primary focus is going to be on the campaign this year because they want to get that out.
Yeah, that would be nice. Because if I had a strong enough PC, I would definitely get Star Citizen. I'm a big fan of Elite Dangerous too, and unfortunately now, like thankfully they came out with the console versions of it, but I was disappointed when they decided to cancel the Odyssey expansion pack where you can get off your ship. And
they canceled that for console.
Yeah, they canceled that for console.
That sucks.
Yeah. And I think Elite Dangerous is getting hit pretty hard. I think the Odyssey pack now working up to standard in the PC they got a lot of flack from
Levan stopped. Like when I first started watching Levan, he's like big on sci-fi games and stuff like that. And when I first started watching, he was playing Elite every day, like maybe like 5 hours a day. He was streaming it, and then like I want to say like last year, the year before, he just completely stopped. And he started focusing on Star Citizen, and it was basically because the game runs, it wasn't meeting his expectations. So you're talking somebody that probably put, 800 to 1,000 hours into that game, and they don't play it anymore.
So Chris and Rob, a few episodes back, you guys mentioned the Resident Evil 2 remake. So I finally, a couple of days ago, went back and completed Claire's side. I just wanted to ask real quick and what all of your all's opinion is on like Mr. X being in the remake and how obnoxious that, character or enemy is when you're just trying to get through the game.
So I haven't done Claire's side yet. I've only done Leon's side.
Well, you haven't really finished the game then.
Yeah, I know. I said that in the video that I released. But so
yeah, so you always do this.
So
you never finish the game.
Yeah, man. I've spoken on it though. But for my first interaction with him, like my interaction on just playing that side, is that he was intimidating and it was scary and it legit had me scared. Even though I kept seeing him, you get what I'm saying? So, but that's on my first playthrough. I have it installed now, and it's installed. I'm looking at it, but I just haven't beaten Claire's yet, so I don't know how I feel with him showing up again and kind of like that initial shock not being there.
I think it's a neat gimmick, a neat idea for the remake, but after a while, I'm just like, can you go away? I'm trying to progress through this, and I'm constantly having to run away from you.
I feel like that when I play Yakuza and like the 50th goon decides to pick a fight with me.
You're talking about, yeah, definitely.
Any Yakuza game, just pick whichever one you want.
You're right.
Yeah.
So like,
all of the above.
So when it comes to Mr. X, I played. By the way, I played it twice, and twice over with the two characters and stuff. That's how much I liked it. And I have to admit, if it wasn't for Mr. X, the game would be a lot more boring. And that Mr. X dynamic, the game itself is not a long game. It's actually a relatively short game. You can finish it.
Yeah, it's maybe 6-7 hours if that.
Yeah, so like if you're good at it, you can finish it within 2 or 3 hours, at least one run. So like I finished it around 5 hours now, like for my second playthrough. But overall, it does make the game a lot more fun because you never had that before. It's never like, or rarely in any video game you have some other character just chasing you down and intelligent enough to open doors and continue following you. And the way that he comes out, he completely surprises you sometimes. Sometimes he'll break a wall, show it right in front of you. I thought that was a cool gimmick, especially for me. I am not a person that likes horror games per se, but Resident Evil, you just kept me at the edge of my seat. I really enjoyed
it. That remake's something special, man. It's special. I really like it.
Yeah, and they didn't even they try to do the same for Resident Evil Village with Lady Dimitrescu or something like that. But I think that people heard some complaints that like it, like the character, like they're constantly chasing you down and you barely get to progress. So they like dim that down considerably, and you feel it too. It isn't as an intense game as it should be. I think the fact that Mr. X was there just made the whole horror experience even higher. So that was my take on it. All right.
So Mitch, you liked them the first playthrough, the first go around, and didn't like them the second?
So no, it wasn't really that. It was more of like after the jump scares, him chasing you around. I liked it a lot. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is something that obviously wasn't in the first Resident Evil 2. It was something that they've added. And it was through, I'd say 3/4 of the way through my first playthrough on Leon, and then going back through with Claire. I like the Resident Evil that's the music kind of sets the tone of the horror side of things. The slower walking zombies, that take a ton of bullets to, take down. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, just, man, you are in my way. I know what I need to do to progress to complete this puzzle. And it just seemed over and cumbersome after a while. Just, it wasn't a shock factor anymore. He wasn't a scary, villain to run away from. It was just, hey man, you're bothering me. I need to get this done and progress.
Gotcha.
But other than that, I mean, that game is fantastic. I mean, visually, the way that it plays, I like the short, to the point campaigns. I don't have the luxury of spending 60, 70, 80 hours on a campaign.
Or 140 in Elden Ring, yeah.
Well, that was an exception. I did do 140 in Elden Ring.
140 hours in Elden Ring?
140 hours. I just watched somebody beat it, and they beat it twice. It took them 120 the first time, and then they just they blitzed the second playthrough and beat it in 3 hours on the second playthrough.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to playing that game. I've seen so many snippets of people just one hit destroy freaking bosses. Yeah,
just don't ever expect that.
I completely get it.
Don't expect that.
No, but trust me, as a person that has played all the stuff from Software games, I get it. I just think that it's really awesome that all the varieties that you see in different characters and different combat styles. I think it's really cool. You saw the Kamehameha one, where you can literally create a freaking power, continuously hitting a monster and just fucking destroying them. Yeah, I fucking love that. I'm holy shit, I want to. So it's like life goals, right? I want to get to that point. I haven't played it yet, but I want to get to that point.
All right. So with that, if y'all made it this far, thank you. Consider liking, subscribing if you're on YouTube, or just liking and following us on any other platform. I want to thank Brian and Mitch for joining us today, trying something a little different. Guys, thanks for your input. Rob, as always, thanks. And if you disliked it, leave a comment, because I can't see dislikes. So, if you hate me,
tell us why we're awful.
Yeah, tell me why you hate me. It's all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.